Hey top percenters, how's it going? Coro Coro has just been leaked and we have had some absolutely huge Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire spoilers handed our way. So without further ado, let's head straight into them. Starting with our cover boys, we've actually got more information on Kyogre and Groudon's new forms. Starting with our poster boys, we've got more information on Kyogre and Groudon's new appearance. It seems that it's still a coin toss for me on whether these are actually going to be forms or a type of Mega Evolution. Now, to clear that up, a lot more people are going to start saying form now because we've been given their names. Their names are Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre. They achieve these new forms by a process called Ancient Devolution. So, already right there, it's like, well, the term forms is coming up a lot when people are talking about these, so it could be another form. A lot like with Rotom's forms and Shaman's two forms. The way they achieve these new forms is from something called Nature's Energy, and they're also going to be learning new moves. But, to be honest, Ancient Devolution could just be a type of regressive Mega Evolution. That being said, I'm really hoping that that isn't the case because, quite frankly, you know, having everything new be Mega Evolutions is kind of lackluster. I know for a fact that I was one of the few people who turned around and said, you know what, I get filled up with all these different forms, but to go from everything having new forms to everything being a type of Mega Evolution, it goes from one extreme to the other. So if the new Groudon and the new Kyogre do happen to be forms, while we're in this age of Mega Evolution, I'll happily welcome that. Because it's not one extreme to the other, it's a case of, well, we had all this, now we've got this, let's put a little bit of the first back in with the second and mix things up a bit. And I welcome that kind of idea. It's called variance, I like it. As soon as we actually found out about these guys though, me and Max actually got talking straight away about it, and he actually mentioned the idea of what does this mean for Kyogre and Groudon in the TCG. Now, we were thinking, well, if they're different forms, then they're most likely going to do what they did with Shaman, which is basically, it's the same name, it's effectively the same type of card, but just different artwork. Now, of course, if it is a type of Mega Evolution, then they're going to basically become Megas, or in this case, Primevals. And, well, let's just say, me and Max actually had a little conversation, had this little conversation about it, and one part of the conversation basically led to, what if they bring us a new mechanic? I don't really think they're going to give us a new mechanic, us being in the middle of the whole Mega X thing. Yeah, but it would be really good if they actually had a different way of evolving to them, maybe using something like Devolution Spray. That is genius. I love it. So, yeah. Max came up with the idea of maybe using Devolution Spray to actually be a method to actually bring out these ancient devolutions, and to be honest, I do actually quite like that idea. The idea of actually saying, oh, this card that's like incredibly situational and never sees play, let's give it a practical use. I mean, Devolution Spray has very rarely seen any kind of competitive play. I don't think it's ever seen competitive play as long as I've been playing. And using Devolution Spray as part of a mechanic, I actually think could be pretty interesting. I'm not saying it's going to be the best idea or the most consistent idea ever, but it takes this one-off concept. In a game focused on evolution, the idea of devolving is only visited very rarely, and it's mostly through Devolution Spray. So why don't we make it so that Devolution Spray actually serves a purpose? That's just an idea though. Moving on from our poster boys though, we actually have the Hoenn starter trio. Now, Now, we've already known about Mega Blaziken. That has been a thing ever since X and Y was handed to us. It was one of our very first Megas. Now, I, like a lot of people, actually ask the question, it's like, why is Blaziken getting a Mega when we can't see anything of Sceptile and Swampert here? Well, it's mostly because they wanted to actually give us a little hint that Gen 3 was coming. And that's what they did. They basically said, Gen 3 is going to be a thing. Here's Mega Blaziken to prove it. And, well, alongside Mega Blaziken, we now have Mega Sceptile and Mega Swampert. Mega Swampert is keeping his original typing of Water Ground, but when he Mega Evolves, he gains the ability Swift Swim. Meaning, put him on a Rain Dance team, he's going to become incredibly fast. He still keeps his Stab Earthquake, he's going to be able to make use of Waterfall. I can see him gaining a physical attack boost, mostly just by the nature of how he fights and, well, look at him, he's huge now. Bro, he lifts. He lifts you, he lifts me, he lifts everything. He takes that stuff, he picks it up and then he puts it back down. Next on the list of Megas is Mega Sceptile. Sceptile has actually turned around and said, you know what, I want to be the first grass dragon. As well as becoming a grass dragon, he also gains the ability Lightning Rod, making him probably, well, he's one of the few Pokemon that isn't either electric or ground to actually gain it. So I know we've already had it on Goldeen and I believe Sea King gets it on Evolution. But Sceptile being a grass dragon, he's going to 4 times resist. Also, as I said, with Swampert gaining a physical attack boost, I can see Sceptile gaining a little more speed. He was always the fastest out of this trio, it would make sense to make him just a bit more faster. Although, if Mega Sceptile does become a thing at all, then Ice Beam becomes so much more of a thing. Ice Beam, Ice Shard will just absolutely wreck his life. Although it will be interesting to see if when we enter the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire part section of the TCG, if we actually get Swampert, Blaziken and Sceptile as their alternate types. So a fighting type Swampert, which would also mean a fighting type Blaziken, and a dragon type Sceptile. I think this would be pretty interesting. That being said, you could actually save the type shift for when they Mega Evolve, meaning that Mega Blaziken could be fighting, normal Blaziken would be fire, normal Swampert fighting, and Mega Swampert water, just to try and keep it so that we don't have basically 2 fighting and then Sceptile. Also joining the home starters in the Mega Parade is Diancie. Diancie is most likely going to be getting this Mega Evolution off the back of its own movie, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Diancie having a Mega Form. Now, Diancie itself is already meant to be a mutated Carbink, and because of its rare mutation, it's treated like their queen. And, okay, yeah, fair enough, that makes sense. But then to turn around and say that this genetic mutation that's seen as a queen because of its rarity, who has been noted to act like a snob to other Carbinks, to then turn around and say, oh, well, she gets even better. Carbinks are going to get different shapes and different forms, but Diancie gets to go mega and become even more powerful, and has even more purpose to actually look down on normal Carbinks. It's like, I don't like it. Yeah, I'm sure that the movie will actually turn around and say, oh, Diancie's not like that at all. But we've seen Diancie's bio, and Diancie has basically been stated to be a snob. She's basically been outlined as somebody who says, I am better than a Carbink, I am better than all of you. It's a case of, why does she get a Mega? It seems like we're rewarding her for the wrong reasons. But let's move on to some better. But let's move on from that and actually take a look at the actual Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire games. Now, once again, we see the return of Team Aqua and Team Magma. Much like the original Ruby and Sapphire, you will actually only face one of these teams depending on which game you have. So with Sapphire it's going to be Aqua, Magma for Ruby. Now the members of Team Aqua and Team Magma have been graphically updated. They do look quite different from how they used to. Seems that might have been visited by the members of Team Flare at some point. But much like the originals, Team Magma is headed by Maxi, and he has his two admins, Tabitha and Courtney. Team Aqua is still led by Archie, with his admins, Matt and Shelley. All have been redesigned, and in fact, Archie looks to be, well, Hedge. Is that Archie? And it seems that Team Aqua is following in Swampert's footsteps. It's all about being as big as possible. Also returning alongside our two villain teams, we have Steven Stone. Now, he's always had a connection with evolutionary stones. It seems that he's going to be the key to Mega Evolution in Hoenn. And in fact, he's been shown to have a Mega Charizard X of his own. I wouldn't be surprised if Steven Stone is actually where the new Mega Evolution item, the Mega Bangle, comes from. We've not been shown that it's definitely him, but I do think it's odd that looking at the actual magazine covers, if this image will grow, he does seem to be shown directly next to the starters. So whether he's actually taking the professor's position as the person who gives you your basic and does the whole Mega Evolution thing, don't know. Kind of hoping that I've kind of do like the whole fact that the professors serve a purpose instead of just being people who are there. Well, as I was saying, Steven Stone has returned. He seems to be connected to Mega Evolution, as is Mega Charizard. Alongside Steven Stone, we've been shown the new art. We've been shown the artwork for our new protagonists, and their design seems a lot more sleek than the original Emerald builds. Where back in Emerald, the protagonist happened to look quite a lot like Ethan and Red, with the way they dressed and the whole fact that it was like loose, casual clothing. It seems to be wearing a much more sporty, wetsuit-based design. And Hoenn is basically just an interlocking bunch of islands, so it kind of makes sense that these people would be ready to swim. To be honest, I've nothing for or against the outfits. They look good, but apart from that, I'm kind of actually sad to see that it looks like customization of characters has been like pushed away for the remake. It was one of the things I did like about X and Y, the whole fact that you could kind of customize your character, which just made it seem like, well, okay, you can do stuff, you can actually personalize this. When you go into a lobby when you go into a friend lobby, now you won't actually be some kind of random NPC character, you'll be you in your outfit. And it's kind of nice to see that people have done it. Was kind of nice to see, but who knows, customization might still be there, and this is just the base model for our characters. And one final piece of news before I finally give you guys a rest, and that is the fact that the Mac Bike and the Acro Bike are making a return to this game. Now, it's going to be interesting to actually see the two bikes interchange. They were actually... The way that the Mac Bike and Acro Bike worked in the original game basically acted to make it so you could only access certain areas at certain times or in certain ways. Now with the return of the Mac and Acro Bike, it basically means that certain areas can be denied to you if you don't have one of the bikes, which in my opinion can make the game a bit more interesting. There's never a situation in the real world where you can go anywhere, anytime, as long as you have a certain piece of equipment. The Mac Bike and the Acro Bike were basically a way of showing that, yes, you can go here if you have this bike, but you can't go there because that requires the other bike. Each one served a purpose, and it shows that even at the end of the game, no matter how open world the game is, there should be limitations to where you can travel. And the Magma Aqua bikes were a great way of actually demonstrating that. It didn't outright punish you for wanting to go somewhere, and you could always interchange the bikes whenever you wanted. So if you pick the Mac bike, you can always go back, exchange the Mac bike for the Aqua bike at any point. So it didn't turn around and say, well, you can't go here if you don't get this bike. It basically means that, oh, if you want to go here, you have to go and exchange for that bike. Which, for me, seemed fair, as the whole fact that... And it basically did make the world feel a bit more, well, real, with the idea of differing terrains. With all of that said though, what do you guys think about the leaks from Coro Coro magazine? We're about to head into E3, and I can see a lot of this stuff actually just being repeated. We may get one or two bits of information come through, and to be honest, when that information comes through, I'll make sure to report it straight to you guys. So until next time, I've been Writer Joey. You guys are top percent. Peace out.